Imagine an AI factory with 100,000 GPUs. Now imagine every one of those GPUs constantly exchanging information with the others. Not once, not occasionally, but every second, even every millisecond. And as AI models become larger and more complex, the amount of data moving inside data centers is growing at an incredible rate. And that's creating a problem. The chips are getting faster, the models are getting bigger, but the infrastructure responsible for moving all that information is struggling to keep up. For years, the biggest challenge in AI was compute, and then it became power. More recently, cooling emerged as another critical constraint. And now a new bottleneck is beginning to appear, and that's bandwidth. Because building the world's most powerful AI chips doesn't matter if they can't communicate fast enough. And solving that problem could create an entirely new generation of winners across the AI infrastructure ecosystem. Today, we're talking about silicon photonics.
Data is growing at a staggering rate from an ever-increasing number of types and sources. In fact, 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years alone. This explosive data growth is placing extraordinary demands on networks with 5 times more traffic occurring within the data center compared to total internet traffic, requiring large-scale data center operators to deploy higher-speed connectivity over greater distances, which can be longer than several football fields. To meet these demands, a massive number of high-speed optical transceivers are deployed to connect switches, converting electrical data to optical signals that are transmitted on fiber optic cables over distances from hundreds of meters to several kilometers.
Silicon photonics is a technology many believe will play a major role in the future of AI networking. And a little known company called XFAB may be positioning itself to participate in that opportunity. Now, traditionally, data moved through copper. Copper has powered the internet, cloud computing, and modern networking for decades. But AI is changing the requirements. And as networking speeds increase, copper connections become harder to scale, and signals weaken over long distances. Power consumption rises, and heat generation increases, and maintaining signal integrity becomes more challenging. And that's why many companies are turning towards optics.
Corning are pairing up on a huge announcement today that could totally flip the script for the AI build-out. Corning is building 3 new factories entirely devoted to products for NVIDIA in North Carolina and Texas. And while Corning and NVIDIA didn't share many specifics, it's likely the deal is worth tens of billions of dollars. This could be the big deal many analysts have been waiting for, the debut of a new technology called co-packaged optics. It could eventually mean NVIDIA replaces the 5,000 copper cables 2 miles worth inside its rack-scale systems like Vera Rubin with tiny glass fibers made by Corning, something that until now has never been accomplished at scale. Co-packaged optics would vastly reduce the energy needs of an AI data center because glass is far more energy efficient than copper. It also means lower latency for all those AI tasks because fiber optics can send data far faster than copper, allowing faster communication between the hundreds of thousands of GPUs in an AI data center that need to act as one to execute AI workloads. Unlike traditional copper phone lines that transmit information as electrical signals, fiber optic cables are tiny bendable strands of glass where data is sent through as photons, lasers emitting pulses of light at far higher speed using less energy.
Moving photons is between 5 and 20 times lower power usage than moving electrons. So basically, as power becomes a bigger and bigger issue, fiber inevitably gets closer and closer and closer to the compute.
Founded in the gold rush era, Corning is turning 175 this week and is known for reinventing itself time and time again to stay ahead of crucial technologies. From the glass for Edison's light bulbs to Pyrex cookware, television screens to vials for COVID vaccines, and most famously, all the glass for iPhones. Now, in the AI boom, Corning is supplying millions of miles of fiber optic cable to new data centers from all the major players already: Meta, OpenAI, AWS, Microsoft, Google, and CEO Wendell Weeks helped invent an entirely new, denser, thinner fiber optimized for AI workloads. We got an exclusive look at it inside the world's largest fiber factory in January, where Meta is helping with a major expansion after committing up to $6 billion for Corning's fiber. Corning's largest and fastest growing business is optical communications. And with the NVIDIA deal signaling a big move toward replacing copper with glass within its servers, demand is going to soar even higher.
Today in a server, you probably have about 2.5 miles of copper in them. And ultimately, as these AI nodes start to have more and more GPUs in them, we're like sub 100 now, but you start to go up to hundreds, the distances will climb. And when those distances climb, fiber optics become much more economical and much more power efficient.
So instead of transmitting information through electrical signals through copper wires, optical systems convert data into light, and light can travel farther. Light can carry more information, and it can do so more efficiently. As AI factories continue growing larger, those advantages become increasingly important. So the networking requirements inside AI infrastructure are accelerating rapidly. A few years ago, 400 gigabit networking represented the cutting edge. Then the industry moved towards 800 Gs. Today, many vendors are preparing for 1.6 terabit systems, and discussions have already begun around 3.2 terabyte technologies. Every generation requires more sophisticated optical technology, more lasers, more photonic integrated circuits, more advanced networking components, and the demand for compute is increasing. But the demand for connectivity may be increasing even faster because every GPU added to a cluster creates even more communication requirements throughout the system. So several companies are already benefiting from this trend. Applied Optoelectronics, AAOI, provides optical transceivers used in high-speed networking environments. Coherent, COHR, supplies lasers and photonic technologies that enable optical communications. Marvell, MRVL, develops networking silicon and optical DSPs that process data traveling through these systems. Credo, CRDO connectivity, focuses on connectivity solutions that help move information efficiently between AI chips. And Sivers, SIVEF, is developing indium phosphate laser technologies aimed at next generation optical networking applications. Each company operates at a different layer of the ecosystem, but they are all connected to the same trend, the need for more bandwidth. But who actually manufactures those photonic chips? Designing a chip is one challenge. Producing it at scale is another. Silicon photonics requires specialized manufacturing processes, specialized equipment, and specialized expertise. Unlike traditional semiconductors, there are relatively few foundries capable of manufacturing these devices. And that means manufacturing capacity itself could become a bottleneck. And throughout history, bottlenecks have often become some of the most valuable parts of a supply chain. So that brings us to X-FAB, XFABF in the US stocks.
In 1998, this fab started as Malaysia's first foundry and joined the global X-FAB network in 2006. After 25 years of progress, a new chapter begins. We chose to grow in Kuching because this site and the Sarawaki NCR are key to what comes next. Our new clean room. We increased our capabilities by 30% with an astonishing 10,000 more wafers every month. What we build isn't just high tech, it's high trust. Trusted in electric vehicles, where chips must sense, decide, and act in milliseconds. Trusted in factories, where machines adapt through real-world feedback. Trusted in energy and healthcare, where efficiency and precision save resources and lives. Our chips perform under pressure, vibration, heat, delivering the right signal at the right time, every time. This is the first wafer from our new clean room in Sarawak. It carries everything we believe in. Precision, partnership, possibilities. And now it's ready. From our hands to yours.
Now, historically, XFAB has been viewed as an automotive and industrial conductor foundry, not exactly the type of company most AI investors spend time researching. But behind the scenes, XFAB has been developing capabilities in silicon photonics. And today, most investors still think of XFAB as an automotive semiconductor foundry, but management is investing in something very different, a dedicated silicon photonics manufacturing platform. And in fact, XFAB is working to establish what could become Europe's first dedicated silicon photonics foundry. And that's significant because silicon photonics manufacturing capacity remains limited globally, and even as demand for optical networking continues to accelerate. But the goal is to manufacture the photonic chip that helps move data through next generation optical networks. And these chips can eventually be integrated into optical transceivers, co-packaged optics, and other high-speed networking systems used inside AI infrastructure. XFAB is not trying to compete with NVIDIA. It's trying to become part of the manufacturing foundation that future AI networking may depend on. And that's important because the demand for optical connectivity is expected to grow dramatically over the next decade. And as networking speeds move from 800Gs to 1.6T and eventually to 3.2T, the industry will likely need significantly more silicon photonics manufacturing capacity. And that's the opportunity XFAB is trying to position itself for. The company recently reported record revenue in its microsystems and photonics segment. And meanwhile, revenue from wide bandgap semiconductor technologies grew more than 150% year over year. These businesses remain relatively small today, but they represent some of the fastest growing opportunities inside the company. Of course, there are risks, and silicon photonics adoption may take longer than expected. If customers could choose competing foundries, large semiconductor manufacturers could increase investments in the space, and the automotive market may remain weak longer than management expects. As investors should realize that recent share price volatility appears to have been amplified by retail enthusiasm and social media attention. This is not a low-risk investment story. It's a long-term infrastructure thesis that depends heavily on execution. And execution matters, timing matters, and nothing is guaranteed. So XFAB, Silicon Foundries, is up 50 cents today to $11, is up almost 5%. Price per earnings ratio, it doesn't say. XFAB, Silicon Foundries climbed significantly over the past month, driven by vital retail interest and strong performance in growth sectors. While automotive demand remains soft, sentiment suggests a potential recovery in the second half of 2026 as the company executes its strategic reorganization and cost-saving initiatives. Explosive growth in wide bandgap tech. This is the bullish. Revenue from high growth wide bandgap technology, specifically silicon carbide and gallium nitride, surged approximately 152% year over year in the first quarter of 2026. The segment is benefiting from intense demand in electric vehicle power systems and AI-related data center infrastructure, helping offset broader market volatility. Record microsystems and medical revenue. Companies' microsystems and photonics business achieved record quarterly revenue, approximately $33 million, 42% year-over-year increase. Concurrently, medical revenue rose roughly 39%, driven by advancements in pacemakers and DNA sequencing technology, diversifying the company's revenue streams beyond traditional automotive cycles. And then it also secured $175 million in combined funding from the EU and US CHIPS Act. The bearish, the automotive sector and inventory adjustments, automotive revenue, which remains the core market pillar, declined approximately 10% year over year in 2026. The downturn is attributed to ongoing inventory adjustments and limited short-term visibility, which has pressured overall margins and led cautious order intake. So one lesson continues to emerge throughout the AI revolution is that the biggest opportunities aren't always where investors are looking. As everyone notices the GPUs, far fewer investors focus on the infrastructure supporting the GPUs, which is power, cooling, networking, memory, and now potentially silicon photonics. So whether XFAB ultimately becomes a major winner remains to be seen, but the broader trend is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore as AI systems become larger and more connected. The world will need dramatically more bandwidth, and the companies helping solve that challenge may become some of the most important infrastructure providers for the next decade. So as usual, none of this is financial advice. I'm simply sharing my research, my opinions, and the companies I'm watching as the AI infrastructure build out continues to evolve. And as always, do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. So if you enjoyed this video and want access to additional research, portfolio updates, watch lists, and early video releases, consider joining the Buy Me a Coffee membership link below. And members receive exclusive posts, deeper dives into stocks. And as always, thanks for watching. And please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments. Do you think silicon photonics becomes one of the biggest AI infrastructure opportunities in the next decade? And which company do you think is going to benefit the most? And we'll see you in the next one.